Yo, what is up? Happy Thursday night, Bearcats. Whoop, whoop. Oh, excuse me. We're here. We're hanging. We're chilling. It's HMG After Dark, pals. Make sure you sign this NDA first before you come in. Whoop, whoop. Tonight, we're doing part 4. Who killed WCW? We got Canada Spaceman in the house. Good to see you, pal. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, that's actually what we got right here, pal. Watching it on Daily Motion. So get your popcorn, get your soda, get your weed, get your drink. Let's do it. Whoop, whoop.
WCW is about to dominate the globe of professional wrestling.
10 million people in the United States were zeroed in on professional wrestling.
We were the #1 cable rated show
for almost 2 years. Mind blowing. And when something gets too big too fast, shit's going to hit the fan at some point, and it did.
Little by little, we just fell. We already knew that we were running thin.
It is so good to be king.
He cared more about ratings than he cared about advertising dollars.
It was a shit show.
Vince Russo was just another idiot.
He was there to lead to our ultimate demise.
I was done. It was over. I could have cared less. No doubt in my mind, Bischoff was responsible for a little of this.
Another nail in the coffin of a company that was rapidly dying at that time.
I don't control that shit. I go out and I did my job. My check didn't change.
It was the easiest money I ever made in my career.
Like, they got what?
When guys got those kind of agendas, thinking about themselves.
Yeah, man. What's up, Nelson? Whoop, whoop. Yeah, Brett don't give a fuck, pal.
Did WCW come to an end?
It is at an end.
It didn't feel like a family. It felt like everybody was out for themselves. It seemed like the blood was in the water and the sharks were coming to get it.
I think everybody just didn't know what was happening. We were still hearing the rumors that we're just going to shut the door.
Video killed the WCW stars, pal. What's up, Gam? Good to see you. Whoop, whoop. Hope you're doing well. Giggity, giggity.
I think Turner finally started looking into the books and said, we got to pull the plug on this.
Went pretty good. I had a great time. Thank you for looking at that.
Looking at the books, I think seeing how much money we were spending. You can only imagine how much money went out the window. After Brad brought me back to kind of oversee Russo, it was apparent to me that things were more dysfunctional within Turner Broadcasting in the relationship between Turner and WCW than they had ever been. I'm not talking about what was going on in television or how much money they were making or losing. I'm just talking about the relationship.
Time Warner is a company of winning brands and winning people, and so is AOL for this merger. Just like when we put Turner Broadcasting into Time Warner, it made the company much, much stronger. And I think we're all committed to making this thing work.
AOL was absolutely ubiquitous at that time in terms of.
Ooh, that was one of the worst business decisions ever made, merging with AOL.
I've been on Jericho Online 2 months, and it's really been a revelation for me. You got me.
I am at 355.
Businesses based on promises of future growth.
If you looked at the assets to AOL,
AOL's leadership in the early part of 1999 also were keenly aware of this.
Yo, what's up, Yosef? Good to see you, pal. Whoop, whoop. How you doing, giggity, giggity?
Company, which will be called AOL Time Warner, gives each partner what it now lacks.
What ended up happening is that AOL shareholders would receive 55% of the new company and Time Warner 45%.
Now, my dad's never been online in his life. Never touched a computer. Never owned a cell phone. Never used an ATM. Right? He's old school.
It's pretty decent.
On AOL's going to. You could say it was collateral damage. Wrestling has become fun, crazy entertainment. It's an alternative. It doesn't define our network. It's one night a week.
It's a hit every Monday night, but it wasn't any. Because it was broken and I had to fix it, I was a physical presence there. I was in there trying to do whatever I can do to get it back on track.
Yeah, that was pretty much the same thing that happened. Very close to that, yep.
It was a chaotic shit show and a blur. And I said, I'm about to get the hell out of here because I've had it. You had to look out for yourself.
I just felt like Brad didn't know anything about wrestling. I mean, he knew about the corporate side, but he wasn't a wrestling person. He wasn't somebody that was going to try to help save the company. It was like going through the motions.
To be completely honest, I couldn't fix it. And the red kept getting redder. And the ratings kept falling.
Yeah, I know, man.
In addition, WCW drove away its pain.
Yeah, mergers are murders. It gets too muddied. Things get way too muddied.
And the same event just 12 months later in March of 2000. They basically put on the exact same main events. March of 99, the uncensored pay-per-view enticed some 325,000 viewers to purchase the event, which 60,000 people were willing to purchase the 2000 version of WCW.
The narrative was at the end of 2000, WCW had losses of around $62 million. That's the narrative. And I think that there probably is a grain of truth to that. But what people don't understand is the why.
Professional wrestling is very different when you're a company like Time Warner, AOL, a lot of answering to shareholders that have expectations on a monthly and quarterly basis.
I think there was a lot of debt from other divisions in the company
Oh.
could be allocated WCW because everybody knew it was going to be written off as a loss anyway.
The bullshit internal transfers, the people trying to park all their trash on our books while we were getting hurt.
It was clear to me at that point that Turner Broadcasting didn't want anything to do with WCW. When I said to Brad specifically, I said, Brad, why don't you let me explore selling WCW while it still has some value? Because the velocity at which WCW was losing ground at that particular time was pretty dramatic.
Exactly, Canada space, man.
Chuckled at me. So I just let it go. Fast forward.
Good evening. Today we announced that the Federal Communications Commission has approved the merger of America Online and Time Warner Inc.
So the merger was announced on January 11th, 2001. There had actually been a lot of financial experts who'd been predicting the imminent demise of AOL for quite some time. Keep in mind that throughout the year 2000, a number of significant things happened. We had the dot-com recession, right? We had a number of these internet companies that were going to be the darlings of the future that went belly up, which affected AOL in a serious way. its stock price dropped by 50%. A huge pressure to look closely at which divisions are profitable and which are registering huge losses. That put WCW even more in the crosshairs.
There were the only person standing in front of them was Ted Turner.
The merger happens. Ted becomes vice chairman.
You know, he was excited about that at first. And, you know, you have an office. Well, no, your name made it. Your businesses made it. And they didn't want to even hear at the board meetings from him. Ted Turner was no longer a challenge. Ted Turner was regulated to the corner and didn't have a voice or vote in his own company.
Ted is no longer in a position to have control over.
Yeah, that was a big thing that hurt WCW was Ted Turner losing power.
Time Warner, is it that important to own a wrestling company that's losing money, bleeding mass every year of its existence except for 1 or 2 years? Is that really what Time Warner needs to own? I don't think we need this.
See, take one. Get a phone call for Brett. He said, so let me ask you, Eric. I could find a buyer.
Whoop, whoop.
He said, sure. But I assured him that I could find someone who had the resources to buy. I said, you want me to put a deal together? You want me to try to put some people together? He goes, see what you got. I went to a guy by the name of Peter Goober. Peter Goober.
Peter Goober.
Sports and entertainment. He's a very, very well-established Hollywood guy. And he said, look, I'm not interested in investing in buying WCW, but I think I know some people on me. And he put me in touch with Brian Vidal and Steve Greenberg, who owned a company called Fusion Media Ventures. Fusion Media Ventures and created the Classic Sports Network, which became ESPN Sports Classic. Brian and Steve understood media. They had great connections in New York on Wall Street, and we hit it off and started the process. I called Brad back, said, okay, I got the investment. Fusion Media funded the initial round with went out and raised $62 million in the market.
Nice.
Capable with the financial resources and the right partners with me, that there was potential for WCW. The professional wrestling genre as a whole is indestructible. It's just a matter of the company being in the right hands.
Eric was invested in trying to keep WCW alive and moving. So it was very exciting when the opportunity. And it wasn't surprising that he went 100% all in and just gave it all he had.
We had come up with a
Good stuff, pal.
we think it should just stay number. Thing is number one again, and the goal this time is 100 weeks, not 96 weeks in a row.
I was excited. I thought, okay, great. This is going to open a new door. We're going to continue.
We got toasted ravioli and chicken wings, pal. Whoop, whoop.
And I like that. Knowing that you've got that value of that's going to be, it's critical.
So it was a fait accompli as far as we were concerned.
and we were scheduled to close that deal.
On March the 6th, Jamie Kellner is announced as the new CEO of Turner Broadcasting. Jamie Kellner is someone whose reputation certainly preceded him in the television business. He's credited with having a huge influence over the growth of the Fox network, and then actually becoming a founding partner of the WB network. And upon being appointed to the role, his initial comments to the press were that, I'm paraphrasing, this is a great company full of great people. I'm going to try not to mess things up. I'm going to tweak it.
Jamie Kellner was one of the best television executives in the business, but Jamie, he hated it, didn't get it, didn't want anything to do with it. It was a pain in the ass, and we were losing so much money all the time that I think I made the suggestion to sell WCW. I don't know if it came from me or somebody suggested it and I latched onto it, and Jamie was like, yep, get rid of this as fast as you can. I don't want anything to do with it.
March 16th, Brad Siegel there's going to be a period of hiatus. Then just a few days later, actually there's not going to be a hiatus, but the programming is being cancelled after a 29-year run on the Turner networks. And that leads us to an episode of Monday Nitro in the midst of all of this chaos that has to occur in Gainesville, Florida that Monday evening.
Many of you may know that for the past 6 months I've been working with a group of people whose goal was and is to acquire World Championship Wrestling. But recently we've hit a couple roadblocks that may be, in fact, brick walls. And while it is still in my power, I want to do something befitting what could be very well the last night of wrestling on the Turner networks. That being said, I'll see you all in Panama City next Monday night for the Night of Champions.
We're just getting ready to close. And I got a call from Brian Bedall. And Brian said, Eric, it's done. I said, congratulations, Brian. He said, no, you don't understand. It's done. The deal is over. It's off the table. We were rounding third, heading for home, and there was no warning whatsoever. It came completely out of the blue. Jamie Kellner, he was the head dog, and he looked at the WCW deal and contemplated us having at least a couple of years of 2 hours of prime time on Monday night, 2 hours of prime time on Thursday night. And Kellner didn't want that beachfront property to be dedicated to wrestling.
Cold hard truth is that WCW was completely reliant on television. So much so, in fact, that Eric Bischoff famously quipped that without television, the company was worth $20, if anything.
So at that point, when you take the television distribution off the table, you're taking 90% of the revenue out of the equation. The deal was not worth it to us. It effectively killed the deal. I was devastated.
What am I doing here? Stu, Snyder, ready, go, action. Growing up, I loved wrestling. I lived in New York.
I don't buy anything that Stu Snyder says. I think that he 100%. Him and Brad Siegel working together to. I believe that. Yeah, for real, dude. That needs to be studied. Like so many times they should have died, but they didn't. They like literally kicked out at 2 9/10.
I was looking to do was to keep growing the core business.
Multiple times.
I continued to read about what was happening at WCW. I kept reading about the behind-the-scenes angst going on there. The ratings weren't improving. What's going to happen? Are they going to stick with this? Are they not going to stick with it? And what I recall is picking up the phone, just checking in first of all, because we've known each other for a long, long time. Keep reading about this stuff. Are you okay? And, he'd share with me some of the angst he was going through. I may have said something to the effect of, hey, look, if there's ever a reason to have a conversation, I think we're aware that there was another player. It didn't factor into anything. I didn't know their deal. I didn't know what they were offering. Nothing. Internally at WWF, we had made a decision and thought if we could do a transaction to acquire WCW, we were going to work really.
Oh yeah, if it were not for Dixie Carter, they would have closed in like so like I think it was like September maybe. Yeah, like September of 2002 if Dixie Carter didn't step in. Yeah, this is some like interesting footage. Like talent or fight. Like there's some talent who are finding out for the first time. Yeah, this is the last night of Nitro. It's done. Jared ain't happy. Is that AJ Styles? Dustin Rhodes looking over the format going, Vince McMahon vignette.
On camera, it's hard to overstate just how shocking that was at the time.
Imagine that. Me, Vince McMahon. Imagine that. Here I am on WCW television. How can that happen? Well, there's only one way. You see, it was just a matter of time before I, Vince McMahon, bought my competition. That's right. I own WCW. Therefore, in its final broadcast tonight on TNT, I have the opportunity to address what is the fate of WCW. Because the fate, the very fate of WCW.
Man, that was big when that happened.
We thought we were coming to work like a regular day. No one knew until that night. No one knew.
You saw Vince come up on the trot. No matter how you look at it at that point, no matter how it's spread, they win the war.
When WWE acquired WCW, it felt like the end of an era.
It sucked. The 800-pound gorilla of the room had won. Had no idea what Vince would do with it. I didn't know if it was more advantageous for him to buy it and keep it afloat and then have the competition or destroy it. So the fear of the unknown is pretty.
Damn, man.
There was a lot of sadness and a lot of uncertainty who they were going to hire, who they were going to cut.
We don't really know what's going on. People are happy and sad at the same time. They don't know why. I don't think you want my real feelings about it. It ain't pretty.
It was very emotional. I remember Dusty was there, so I was sticking pretty close to him. There were WWF signs up, which was really weird. Because there's always signs like on the dressing room doors, wherever, and you were seeing WWF. I mean, it felt like a slap.
I remember Shane McMahon coming in and he had like a little brief meeting with everybody. And we get told the company has been sold to the WWE. And tonight, everybody's going to find out about it. And a lot of guys were like, oh my God.
As I was seeing, the wrestlers and performers backstage, shoulders might have been slumped before they walked through the curtain. But then when they walked through, it's back to business as normal. And then when they came back after their match or segment or whatever, it's back to what's going on, what's going to happen.
Yeah, man. Like, oof. What it. You can only imagine what it was like for the boys and the girls in the back.
David was working that night, so we went out and we rocked. I didn't know I was going to win the world title that night, but then when I did find that out, I was like, oh yeah, I got a chip in the game. They got the eyes on me, So I was really excited. I was probably perhaps one of the only guys that was excited. I mean, it was sad,
Yeah, I think Booker knew. Okay, I'm he's got a job.
You guys want to be on the Titanic? Nah. Good. I'll sit and watch the fucking thing sink from my fucking house.
I didn't watch it as it happened live. I feel bad for the talent that were there. I feel bad for the production staff that
Yeah, it was, man.
coming, had no idea what their futures were going to be. It's a big life change, but as far as the brand itself, I walked away from it. I no longer cared.
It's going to be an emotional thing. You see a lot of production guys, a lot of people, cameras taking pictures of the guys. And to me, I look at it as the day you left college, and guys you might not see again. But this is a tight knit group of guys we have.
Like one of the camera guys and what a sweetheart guy. He'd been working for the company for 27 years. All of those people lost their livelihood. That's why I say, fuck you, Jamie Gilman.
I was concerned about
Wow.
couldn't walk into a job so easily. Our jobs are so different. It's not a factory. We don't do the same thing.
And DDP didn't hold back on how he felt about Jamie Kellner.
And to get that good at it, we had to have the right people in the right places. And the way you got to that point was the trust of one another. But now you can't do it together anymore.
Everybody was in a bad space. You know, a lot of them didn't know what they were going to do. But you got to let it go. But in this business, it's a little bit different.
What was really weird to me, this multi-million-dollar.
I'm not saying that there was anything spooky kooky going on there, but I have my suspicions.
Here we go, pal. Yeah, for sure, pal.
Maybe there's an envelope pushed across the desk. Maybe you got influence with the guy that's selling it.
Look, there's some murky circumstances. Stu Snyder was an executive at Turner Broadcasting. Oh, by the way, Stu Snyder, after the fact, just happens to land.
Yeah, that would have been a good segment. I'd like to hear that.
Bob Ryder, he was one of the hosts on shows that were broadcast over WCW.com. So in the summer following the sale of WCW, Bob Ryder puts out a widely disseminated post online, essentially alleging that there had been a conspiracy at play.
Bob Ryder, he was a good man and a good friend. And I know that Bob had written about a theory that Brad Siegel helped facilitate the actual sale to WWE by convincing Jamie Kellner to take the distribution of programming out of the deal. Bob said it was. Brad Siegel really didn't want WCW as a part of the Turner portfolio, and this was Brad Siegel's way of using Jamie Kellner to kill the deal.
The conspiracy theory was really something like kind of initiated by Brad Siegel and Stu Snyder to clear the path for it to have a quick sale to the WWF. Stu Snyder at that time was the president of the WWF. He had previously worked at Turner Broadcasting, had a relationship with Brad Siegel. And so the allegation was that there were covert talks between the two. And the primary piece of evidence was the fact that WCW was sold for $4.3 million.
I don't know that that's true. It is a conspiracy theory. Unfortunately, there are enough questions and questionable relationships that
Yeah, he was the one who initially blew the whistle on it.
When you sure the WWF would have an advantage to the sale.
No. Well, first of all, we've known each other our entire careers. I mean, the fact that Stu Snyder was running WWE and was a likely buyer for WCW is purely coincidence.
Did you have any advance knowledge that the QC deal was going to fall through?
No. Simple as that. My understanding is that Brad reported up to Jamie Kellner, and that Jamie.
Ooh, I'm going to rewind that real quick. Because it's something that Disco pointed out when he said he watched this. So what had happened was Stu Snyder was asked, did you have knowledge that the Fusion deal was going to fall through? I want to make sure I saw this correctly. He says no while he nods yes, which is usually a tell you ain't being honest. And Disco pointed that out.
I don't know that that's true. It is a conspiracy theory. Unfortunately, there are enough questions and questionable relationships that interest in a conspiracy like that.
Because you were friends with each other. It was a way to ensure the WWF would have an advantage to the sale.
No. Well, first of all, we've known each other our entire careers. I mean, the fact that Stu Snyder was running WWE and was a likely buyer for WCW is purely coincidence.
Did you have any advance knowledge that the QC deal was going to fall through?
No. Simple as that.
Yep.
My understanding.
He said no while nodding his head.
To Jamie Kellner, and that Jamie made the decision. Said, I don't want it on our kids.
If you think about how serious these particular allegations are and the fact that they would lead to potential SEC violations and have serious professional and personal consequences for all people involved, it's quite the audacious plot given the high profile nature of the people that we're talking about and what they stood to lose if eventually they would be convicted essentially of corporate espionage.
I'm not saying I'm 100% convinced that Stu Snyder was part of an orchestration to make sure WCW got sold for nickels on the dollar. I'm not suggesting that I know that. I just lean in that direction because I don't believe in the number of coincidences.
But here's another thing. Jerry Jarrett was also another potential buyer, and he put up more money than Vince did.
It's easy to sit on the sidelines and not really understand the economics of the businesses to say what something is worth. If there was a deal out there worth $60 million, I can guarantee you, as I'm sitting here today, the Turner executives would have made a deal.
We wanted to sell it. When we sold it, that's what it was worth. My regret is that when the ratings started to plummet, we could not find the right story, the right players in that story to turn it around. You know, that's a big regret of mine. We weren't successful. Sometimes that happens. You can't always be successful.
I believe very little coming out of Brad Siegel's mouth.
I clearly was not the person to do it. I didn't know the business and the story well enough to write it myself. I'm not a writer. So, yeah, I'm really sad about that and regret it wasn't a different outcome.
Would anything have been done to save WCW?
In my opinion, without a strong it would have been tough to exist there with everything else and their challenges as a company. But that world had passed. Ted was that person who was its chief advocate. In the new AOL Time Warner, without that person, I don't know how he succeeds there. And for good or for worse, the one thing that all the talent knew, they knew where the buck stopped at WWE. It was Vince. You were either in line or you were out. That's how Vince ran that place. Different story, different time, different era. So unless you had somebody like that who could go, this is the way it's going to run, and I have the support of corporate to leave it alone and let me do my thing, I think it would have been challenging. It's been proven that it was challenging.
That's true. He could easily go to TKO, go to Ari Emanuel, say, how much do you want for WCW?
to an audience. We're going to figure out how do we keep it alive, and maybe over time it comes back as a separate show. In my head, I saw this great rivalry that was under one roof. First of all, it all started with the famous Shane McMahon showing up on WCW on Nitro and proclaiming, the storyline of basically Vince was going to buy WCW, but he snagged it out from it.
Oh, WCW.
I remember sitting down with all the wrestlers who I had hoped to wrestle: Goldberg, Sting, Savage, everybody in the NWO. It's like I remember writing everybody down and going to Vince and saying, "Hey, this might be going to deal about this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Let's bring them in."
There was so much speculation as to how it would all work. What people don't realize is that when WWE acquired WCW, the assets of WCW, the contracts weren't really part of the equation. It wasn't like
Oh, dude, that would have been hysterical. Daddy, buy me WCW.
Knew that at the time guys were getting 50 cents on the dollar on their existing contracts. That was not happening with me. I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to do it. So if I had to sit out for 3 years, I sat out for 3 years.
not everybody wanted to go to work for WWE. You didn't have Sting. You didn't have Lex Luger. You didn't have Goldberg. What do you really have?
I still had like over a year left on my contract. They offered me a 50% buyout and go to work or just sit at home for the next year. I said, nah, man. I said, out of sight, out of mind.
Oh, that'd be frightening. That'd be frightening.
Let's take the 50% buyout. Let's go to work. It was intense. Throw these guys out here, see how good they really are compared to the WWE guys.
Shane and I decided to join forces.
Well, the invasion storyline was supposed to be the best that WCW had to offer versus the best that WWE had to offer, but we were in no shape to actually be really, really pull off an invasion angle just because we did not have enough star power to really, really get that thing off the ground.
They never really did a WWE feud correctly. And I think that was a big mistake by Vince McMahon. I think he could have done some really cool matchups and some really cool things.
Hey, yo. They were going to write the history that they wanted to create, and no matter how you looked at it, we were the Confederate soldiers going to work for the Union. If you thought that you were going to go over one of their top guys, bullshit. They brought us in under the guise of this isn't going to work twice. I looked at Scott. I said, "We're gone. We're done. We're dead." I get to have a wonderful experience to watch my friend, who now has been sober for 11 months, go downstairs and just start pounding drinks. And he's like, "Fuck it. You talking about a miserable day in my life?" The way they said, WCW, and there was no room in New York City for a company like WCW. That's just the way I felt about it. When the WWE won the war, not only did they want to win the war, but they wanted to bury their opposition and they wanted to plant the flag. And that's what they needed to do more than anything to really solidify winning that war, planting that flag. Yeah, they had to be in dominant position.
Yeah, they left so much money on the table, man.
This crowd is still buzzing. Oh, here comes Mr. McMahon back. He promised to name the new general manager of Raw. In 2002, Vince McMahon called me. And while Vince was speaking, I had already made up my mind that this is my opportunity. Allow me to introduce you to the new general manager of Raw. His name is Eric Bischoff. Nothing to say that everybody in WWE was happy to see me show up, but the people that mattered could not have made me feel more at home.
I like Eric a lot. We're good buddies. Known him for a very long time. And he professional wrestling executives.
Everything that went wrong, the Fusion sale falling through, the fact that the narrative is Eric Bischoff, greater WCW. I had an opportunity to write the last chapter of my story.
Wait a minute.
I think they did.
You know, I had been with WWE for a few years as that general manager character, and everything was going great. And I remember getting a phone call from Stephanie McMahon, who was head of creative at that point. She goes, Eric, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. You've done a great job, but we're going to go in a different direction.
Eric Bischoff has abused his power for too long.
John Cena was going to hit me with his finish and then drag me out of the ring. And John Cena was going to throw me in the back of a garbage truck, and I was going to be hauled out of the arena. And I very seldom questioned creative. But I went to Vince and said, it doesn't make any sense for John Cena to do it. It makes more sense for you to do it. I'm going to make this fun for me. And I did. And I had a blast. And I got to live a dream and rewrite my own chapter. And I loved it, every minute of it. There's not a second of it that I regret.
Who killed WCW?
Ooh. Who killed WCW?
I think it was Turner corporate.
And some of the people within the booking committees.
AOL, Time Warner, the executives that were embarrassed by Goofy Wrestling.
The guys in Turner that didn't want us and didn't like us, and the top guys not letting the mid-card guys interact with them.
WCW killed itself. The cast of characters that was WCW killed WCW. It didn't function as a team any longer. It functioned as a bunch of self-seeking individuals.
I've never seen anybody that was that high up in the food chain take less responsibility. This is what killed WCW.
They were fighting within themselves. They were eating their own.
The wolves.
Who killed WCW? That's easy. Turner Sports.
Would it have to be the person with the checkbook? Have to be Eric Bischoff.
Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff, two guys that had zero knowledge about how to run wrestling. And they put themselves in a position to tell people like me what to do. And that's what
They did. Yep.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to give myself a round of applause for that. Yes, thank you. Bro, they took such a drop from where they were to where it was when it was sold, and so much money lost. I don't think anybody could have done anything. So I would say a business decision killed WCW.
I don't think one person could have killed WCW by any stretch of the imagination. There were a shitload of people who contributed to its downfall.
I think it's a collection of factors, a number of reasons that explain its demise. There's plenty of blame to go around, but I think ultimately it was inevitable that it was going to fall apart.
A good buddy of mine, he's one of my best friends, downtown Bruno. When I first started, I said, Bruno, give me some advice. He said, you're going to hear a voice one day, and that voice is going to say, go on home, the big run's over. WCW as an entity, that voice. And the big run was over, and it was fucking awesome.
Wow.
Man, what a run. It was always about the performances for me. It was always about the fans.
We were rock stars. Everywhere we went, it was packed.
The whole WCW experience was a hell of a ride, period.
Let us remember.
You think? Yeah.
Learned and strive to build a fairer and more equitable future for wrestling.
It's very possible, pal.
50 or 60 some odd nitros, and a lot of these people are like family.
It was a good ride. It was fun. You were like a big family, even though you're a dysfunctional family. You may not get along with everybody, but you're still going to be there when it comes to it.
It was the greatest job. They let us be as creative.
There was a palpable energy. You could feel the crowd. There's something special and something different about a wrestling fan. It just blew my mind to see what a big deal WCW really was.
Those are some great times, terrific times. And it came to an abrupt end like that. But hey, man,
all good things come to an end. Cool. Kind of fucks with your head, you know. It becomes distorted. My memory is more.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Photographs. There's bits and pieces and moments that stand out in my mind, but as time goes on, they kind of just all blur together. When I look back at my time in WCW,
That makes a lot of sense. It really does, Gam.
we're the #1 wrestling company on television in the world. Very proud of that. I was able
Yeah, very cool seeing Terry Funk.
to achieve things that nobody thought possible, and I wouldn't have had any of this if it wasn't professional wrestling. So I'm grateful for every minute of it, the good, the bad, everything in between. Very lucky.
All right. So that's it. That's it, pal. Who killed WCW? Whoop, whoop. All right, so we're going to end it there for tonight. Always a pleasure getting to hang out with you guys. We'll be back tomorrow night. SmackDown watch along, Friday Locker Room. Also, make sure to check out Smack Attack on Saturday, and then we'll be doing Collision on Saturday. And of course, make sure to check out The Wreckage on Sunday, and we'll be doing a replay of TNA Impact on Sunday night. Then, of course, Monday Locker Room, Impact Attack on Monday. We'll see you then, you pal. Yeet, yeet. Have a good night. Later.